You're not broken. You're not weak. You're not failing at life. You're just overloaded, and that's not the same thing. You're trying to run a 2026 life on 2015 bandwidth, and it's not working. They're not looking for a guru. They're looking for a guide. And here's the bottom line. With a safe space to be real, women would want to talk about the things that they're most ashamed of. But in reality, you don't need to become someone new. You just need a better way to carry what's already in your hands. Well, hey, friend, if your brain feels like it's buffering, your to-do list makes you feel like you're standing in quicksand, and you're wondering why everything feels harder than it should, you're not alone. I've recently surveyed hundreds of women heading into 2026. Real women, women just like you, women who are running on empty, but still showing up every single day. Women who look like they have it all together on the outside, but are quietly drowning on the inside. And what did they say? It's powerful, it's honest, and it's probably going to make you feel seen in a way that you haven't felt seen in a long time. And so today I'm walking you through the questions that I asked, and more importantly, what the answers tell us about the emotional load, the mental energy, and the decision fatigue that we women are all carrying into this new year. Know that this isn't another pep talk. This isn't me telling you to just think positive or hustle harder. This is real talk, no fluff, just clarity, strategy, and the kind of relief that comes from realizing oh, it's not just me. So here's my promise to you today. You're going to walk away feeling seen, grounded, and clear on what your mental and emotional overload actually means and how to start reclaiming breathing room, clarity, and a sense of control. Because here's what I know after reading through every single survey response. You're not failing. You're just operating on an outdated system that was never designed for the life you're living right now. So with that, let's dive in. Well, let me start by painting you a picture of who took this survey. These are women in every season. Some have kids at home, some are empty nesters, some are working full-time, some part-time, some are at home. Some are caregiving for aging parents while also managing their own households. There are single women, married women, women who are doing all of this alone, women who have partners but still feel alone and carry much of the load single-handedly because we're women and we can. And so when I asked these questions like, on most days, how emotionally overloaded do you feel on a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being calm and 10 being maxed out? Here's what they said. The most common answers to that question were 7, 8, and 9. Not 3, not 5, not 7, not 5. It was 7, 8, and 9. One woman said 9 and wrote, caring for my sick spouse while also working full-time. Another said 8, and she shared how overwhelming everything is, how paralyzing and overwhelming it is, and how inadequate I feel. Another rated herself a 9, and when asked what she'd talk about first if given a safe space, she said simply, why am I overwhelmed? So let that sink in. These aren't women who are just a little stressed. These are women who are living at capacity or beyond it every single day, and they know it. Then I asked, how often do you feel alone in a room full of people? The top 2 answers were sometimes and almost always. Not rarely, not never, but sometimes and almost always. One woman said almost always and is married with kids at home. Another said almost always and rated her emotional overload as a 9. Because the truth is you can be surrounded by people you love, people who need you, people you're responsible for, and still feel invisible, still feel like no one actually sees you, still feel like you're carrying everything alone. And when I asked, if you had a safe, judgment-free space with women who get it, how likely would you be to use it weekly or even daily? And the overwhelming response was, I would use that weekly and daily. And it wasn't, I would likely do it, not maybe I would use that, but I would use it every single day and every single week. These women are starving for connection, for a place where they can be real, where they don't have to perform or pretend, where they can show up messy and be met with understanding instead of judgment. This is the reality. This is what we're walking into 2026 carrying. And if this is you, if you're following along and thinking, that's me, I'm the 8, I'm the 9, I'm the one who feels alone in a room full of people, I want you to hear me. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're not failing at life. You're just overloaded, and that's not the same thing. And so I say it's time for real conversations. And that's exactly what I'm doing here with you and pretty much everywhere where I'm talking these days. Because women are largely struggling, and getting relief starts with being real and having real conversations. Well, hey, friend, quick pause to share something hot off the press. If your to do list is running your life instead of the other way around, I've got something for you. My free daily task list will help you actually get things crossed off your list, since with the daily task list, you use rapid fire tasks. These are tasks that you can get done in under 10 minutes because, friend, you can do anything for 10 minutes. Head to dailytasklistforfree.com to get your list, plus a training video that explains everything you need to know in order to use it. So, what best describes your headspace right now? In the survey, I gave women 4 options to choose from. They were, I'm stuck and I don't know why. Also, I'm doing too many things and can't prioritize. Third, I know what to do, I just don't do it. And fourth, I'm foggy and I can't think straight. And the responses were split almost evenly across all 4. And so let me tell you what each one of these single things mean. When women are asked what best describes your headspace, if they say, I'm stuck and I don't know why, this is the woman who feels paralyzed. She's not moving forward, but she can't figure out what's blocking her either. She's tried things. She's read the books. She's listened to the podcasts, and she's still stuck. And it isn't about laziness. It's it's about not being able to see the real problem. Because when you're stuck, you're usually treating symptoms instead of addressing the actual problem. So for the woman who says, I'm doing too many things and I can't prioritize, this is a woman who's saying yes to everything. She's running in 10 different directions, and none of them feels like the right one. She's busy, she's exhausted, but she's not actually making any real progress on what matters most. And it might look and feel to her like a time management issue, but it isn't. It's actually a clarity issue. Because when you don't know what matters most, everything feels urgent, and that's a recipe for burnout. So, for the women who said, I know what to do, I just don't do it, this one is hard, right? This is the woman who is beating herself up. She knows what she should do. She's probably even made the plan, mapped it all out. But when it comes time to execute, she doesn't follow through. She doesn't even get started. And she thinks that that means that there's something wrong with her, that she's undisciplined, or that she's lazy, or that she's broken. But listen, this isn't a motivation issue. It is a bandwidth issue. Because when you're running on zero mental energy, even simple tasks feel like they are the size of mountains. They feel impossible. Your brain is maxed out. It's making 1,000 or more invisible decisions every single day. And by the time you get to the thing you're supposed to do, you've got nothing left. And so in reality, you're not lazy. You're just depleted. And so for the women who say, I'm foggy and can't think straight, what is being described here is mental overload. This is what happens when your nervous system has been running on high alert for so long that you can't even form a clear thought anymore. One woman chose this and also rated her emotional overwhelm as a 9. And another said she'd want text support for a clear next step because she can't even figure out what to do next on her own. This is an example of decision fatigue. This is what happens when you've been the one making all of the calls, holding all of the details, managing all of the people, thinking 12 steps ahead every single day, all day long, and your brain finally says, enough, I'm done. And so all 4 of these responses, here's the truth about them. None of them mean that you're failing. They mean that your operating system is essentially outdated for the life that you're living now. I like to describe it this way. You're trying to run a 2026 life on 2015 bandwidth, and it's not working. The woman who's stuck needs to stop guessing and start diagnosing the real problem. The woman who is over-prioritizing, she needs permission to say no and a framework to help her decide what actually matters. The woman who knows what to do but doesn't do it needs to stop shaming herself and start building systems that require less willpower. And the woman who's foggy, she needs to be clear and she needs to get rid of all of that mental clutter so she can start thinking straight again. And in reality, all of this means that you don't just need to try harder, you need to think differently. So, another question that I asked in the survey said, when you feel stuck, which support would feel most helpful in the moment? And again, I gave women several options, but here's what they chose most often. For what kind of help do you need when you feel stuck? I heard quiet, self paced things that I can use alone. I also heard a small group of women who will help me by asking me good questions and giving me support and ideas and encouragement. And then I also heard I need text support. I need someone in the moment to help me with a clear next step. And out of all of these, the one that was the most common was this small group of women who would ask me good questions or give me support, ideas, and encouragement. And let me tell you what that means. These women don't want to be told what to do. They want to be asked good questions. They want someone to help them think through things, not think for them. They're not looking for a guru. They're looking for a guide. They want community. They want to process out loud with other women who get it. They want to be seen and heard and challenged without being judged or shamed. They want to be supported without also being coddled. And they want to also know that they're not the only ones. They want to know they're not the only ones feeling like life is a mess. The second most popular answer among those was quiet, self-paced material that I can do alone at first. And so this is the woman who needs space to process. She needs space to process on her own before she's ready to share. She needs to think through it on her own before she brings it to a group. And that's also valid. It's not that she's avoiding, it's more like an introversion, right? It's thoughtfulness. It's needing to become more self-aware before she can project outward. But here's what's interesting. Even the women who chose this option said that they would use a judgment-free community space weekly or daily if they had one. So the woman who feels like I need to process and figure this out on my own also recognizes, but I know I don't want to feel alone anymore. Women need both, right? Women want both. They want the space to process alone and the safety to share when they're ready. They don't want to be forced into being vulnerable. They also don't want to stay isolated. And so the third option, where it's an idea and a concept like texting support, right? In the moment, to give me just tell me how to move forward. Give me the next clear step. And this was chosen largely by women who are foggy, women who can't think straight, and women who just need someone to tell them, do this next, just do this one thing. And that makes sense too, because when you're maxed out, you don't need a 5-step plan. You just need one clear next step that you can actually take. And so here's what all of this tells me. This tells me that women are tired of surface level solutions. They're tired of being handed checklists and told to figure it out. They're tired of programs that don't give them real support. They want to be met where they are. They want tools that fit their real life, and they want to feel less alone when they're doing the work. And that's not asking for too much. Really, that's asking for what should be the bare minimum. And so the third question I asked was, if you could show up messy and honest without being judged, what would you talk about first? And this question really told me a lot because the answers were so open, they were so raw, they were so real, and they were so heartbreakingly honest. And I wondered, was this the first time that a lot of these women were saying these things out loud? Here's what women said. They wanted to talk about mental clutter. They wanted to talk about what a mess the place is in, how overwhelming everything is, how paralyzing and overwhelming it is, and inadequate I feel. They wanted to talk about how I don't seem to be able to live well in my own life. They wanted to talk about, again, why am I overwhelmed? Someone said my debt situation, and another said my house and my bills. Another one said caring for my sick spouse while also working full time. Another one said money. And so Do you see what all of this shows you? Does it show you the same thing that it shows me? Because it shows me what they're carrying. These are not surface level struggles. These are the things that keep them up at night, the things that they're ashamed of, the things that they think make them inferior or unqualified or less than. And the common thread that was running through all of this was shame. Shame about the mess, shame about the bills, shame about not being able to keep up, shame about feeling overwhelmed when everyone else seems fine. One woman said that she'd talk about, why am I overwhelmed first? Not what to do about it. She doesn't know. She didn't say, I want to know how to get out of overwhelm. What she said is, why am I overwhelmed? That's what she wanted to know. She didn't want to know how to fix it, but she wanted to know the why. And that's because she's internalized the message that she shouldn't be struggling. If I'm not supposed to be struggling and I am, I need to figure out why. And she's deducing that something must be wrong with her if she can't handle what everyone else seems to handle just fine. And another woman simply said, I really don't know. And that is what happens when you've been going along with the motions, hanging on for dear life for so long that you don't even know what you're really feeling anymore. You just know something's off. You know something's not right, but you can't name it. You can't pinpoint it. And when all of that's going on, you can't begin to even fix it. And so here's what I want you to hear out of all of this. If you're carrying shame about any of these things, any of these similar things, things like clutter and debt and overwhelm, the fact that you can't seem to get it together, it's again doesn't signal that you're failing. The problem here is really that you've become convinced that your struggle is a personal problem instead of a system problem. You've kind of bought into the lie that if you just tried harder, if you just organized better, if you just woke up earlier, if you just planned smarter, well, then you'd be able to keep up. But the truth is that you are carrying more than any one person could carry. It's the mental load, it's the emotional load, it's the invisible work of managing a household, maybe a family, maybe a career, maybe it's your own health, it's everyone else's needs, it's everything all mixed together. Carrying all of those things for so long, often fairly single-handedly, it's just not sustainable. And so the fact that you're cracking underneath the weight of it, it doesn't mean that you're weak. It means that you're human. Permission to be human. I say it to my coaching clients all the time. And in reality, you need to have a space, a place where you can say things like this out loud without being told to just try harder. Another woman said she'd want to talk about her best friend first. Not her marriage, not her kid, her best friend. Because sometimes the relationships that hurt the most are the ones that we're not supposed to struggle with. We're supposed to have our people. We're supposed to have our tribe, our village, our support system. But what happens when those relationships become fractured or broken or distant or complicated? Well, we carry that alone too. And here's the bottom line. With a safe space to be real, women would want to talk about the things that they're most ashamed of, the things that they're most afraid of, the things that they think they should have figured out or handled by now, the things that they've been carrying often in silence because they don't think anyone would understand. And that made me so sad because every single one of these struggles is valid. Every single one of these struggles is real and worthy of support, not judgment. But we live in a world where pretty much judgment is all we get. So another question that I asked in the survey is, which sentence sounds the most like you? And so I asked them to choose among these statements which one resonated most. Here were the options. Think in your mind along with me, where would you say, which one of these describes you most? Number 1, I don't know where to start. Number 2, I'm emotionally attached to all of this stuff in my home and I feel guilty about letting it go. And when it comes to clutter, would you say, I've decluttered before, but it never sticks? Clutter is such a common problem. And we're talking about clutter in homes. We're talking about mental clutter. We're talking about digital clutter, all of that. So I don't know where to start, or I'm emotionally attached to stuff and feel guilty letting it go, or I've decluttered before, but it never sticks. And the overwhelming winner among this was, I'm emotionally attached to stuff and I feel guilty letting it go. And I was honestly not surprised by that. And it really is a huge revelation because it really validates something that is critical. It's that the clutter isn't the problem. The clutter is just the symptom. When women say that they're emotionally attached to their stuff, what they're really saying is, I'm holding on to the version of myself that I thought I would be, or I'm holding on to the life I thought I'd have, or I'm holding on to my kids' childhoods because letting go, it feels like I'm losing them. And it's so painful. It's saying I'm holding on to things because getting rid of them feels like admitting that I failed. This isn't about being a hoarder, and it's not about being lazy or messy. This is about grief. It's about loss. It's about identity. It's about fear. One woman wrote that she needs scripts for guilt and scripts for the conversation that we often have when we're trying to declutter and get rid of stuff. The one that says, what if I need it? Because she knows logically, right? There's logic when we're decluttering. Logically, she knows I should let it go. But emotionally, she can't because the guilt, it's too loud. The what ifs, they're too strong. And when this is what's going on, no decluttering system in the world is going to fix that unless we address what's underneath it. This is why clutter, this is why 60 to 80%, anytime I talk to women, this is why 60 to 80% say they have clutter that they need to deal with. And a lot of them say way too much clutter. And so the common answer being, I don't know where to start, it tells me that women are experiencing decision fatigue. And when everything feels equally important or equally overwhelming, you freeze because choosing one thing means not choosing another. And what happens if you choose wrong? And so you don't choose at all. You just stay stuck. And then the third answer was, I've decluttered before, but it never sticks. And this is the woman who has tried. She's done the challenges, she's followed the steps, she's cleaned all the surfaces, and 6 weeks later, it's all back. And this is because she was again treating the symptom, not the root. Decluttering, it's not going to stick if it's just about getting rid of the stuff. It only sticks when you address why the stuff accumulated there in the first place. Was it because you were too exhausted to put things away? Was it because your family doesn't respect the system? Was it because you don't actually have a system? You just have good intentions. And in reality, unless you answer that question, you're going to keep resetting. You're going to keep starting over and you're going to keep feeling like a failure. But again, you're not failing. Your system is failing. Here's the truth. Physical clutter, it creates mental clutter and it puts your nervous system on edge all the time. Your nervous system, if you are living in a cluttered environment or have mental clutter, your system is on edge before the day even starts. You don't even get out of bed and it already is on overload. When your environment is loud or noisy, your thoughts get louder. And in reality, you don't need to throw everything out. You don't need to burn your house down. You don't need to Marie Kondo your entire life in a weekend. What you need is systems that make home feel like a landing place, not another measurement of how well you're doing. And you need to let go of the guilt that's keeping you stuck and getting rid of it. So, another question I was asking women were about their marriages, especially women in midlife. This is a conversation that a lot of women are talking about kind of behind closed doors. And so I asked married or partnered women to choose the statement that best described their relationship. And so the options were, we avoid hard conversations, or we talk, but we repeat the same fight, or we're okay but disconnected, or we're solid and want to grow deeper. And the most common answers were, we avoid conversations, we talk but repeat the same fight, we're okay but disconnected. So let's sit with that for a second. These are women who are married and partnered or living with someone, and they feel disconnected. And in reality, they're admitting that they're avoiding the hard stuff, or they're having the same fight on repeat with no resolution, or they're just coexisting. One woman chose, we avoid hard conversations, and said that when she'd want help, what she'd want help with at first in her marriage is naming what's actually happening so that we're in the same place and so that it makes sense. Because she knows that it's not okay. She knows that they're not okay, but she doesn't know how to say it. Or maybe she's tried and he didn't hear her. Or maybe she's so exhausted from everything else that she doesn't have the energy to even open the can of worms. Another woman said that she chose the option of we talk but repeat the same fight. And she said she wants help with a gentler way to start hard conversations. And we all know there's plenty of those, right? And she chose this and said this because the current way isn't working. It's just creating more distance, more frustration, more resentment. And another woman said, we're okay but disconnected. And she wants help with rebuilding connection and friendship because somewhere along the way between the kids and the work and the responsibilities, they stopped being companions. They stopped being friends. They stopped laughing together. They stopped seeing each other. And here's what all of this tells me. It tells me that marriages don't fall apart overnight. They kind of erode slowly. They happen one avoided conversation at a time, one repeated fight at a time, one disconnected day at a time. And the women who are living in this, they know it, they feel it, they just don't know how to fix it, especially when they're already maxed out emotionally. So the question then becomes, how do you rebuild a connection when you're running on empty? How do you have hard conversations when you're already carrying so much? How do you prioritize a relationship like a marriage when everything else feels more urgent? And I will say this, I will say that the answer isn't just try harder. The answer is you need support, understanding, you need tools, you need a framework for how to start hard conversations without blowing everything up. And you also need to stop feeling guilty for not having the energy to fix this on your own. One woman said that her marriage is solid, but she wants to grow deeper. And I love that because it's a good reminder that marriage isn't just about fixing what's broken, it's also about nurturing what's already good. But the majority of the women who took this survey, they're not there yet. They're not in a place where they're saying, you know what, we're good. They're still trying to figure out how to survive. They're still trying to keep it together. They're still trying not to let their marriage be another thing that they're failing at. And that really is sad. It's heartbreaking because you shouldn't have to choose between showing up for your marriage and showing up for yourself. So, another angle in this survey, I asked women to be honest. How far, and again, think about this for yourself. How far into January do your new starts usually last? And at first, the responses, this question kind of made me laugh, but then it made me sad because the most common answer by far is I don't even start anymore. They weren't saying I fail or reset or fall off the wagon 1 week in or 2 weeks in. They're actually saying, I don't even try anymore. I don't start anymore. So let that sink in for a minute. These are women who have tried so many times and failed so many times that they've given up. They don't make New Year's goals or resolutions anymore. They don't set big goals. They don't even attempt a fresh start because why would they? Why would they do that when every other time it has ended the same way? One woman said, I don't start anymore, and she rated her emotional overwhelm at an 8. Another said the same and chose, I know what to do, I just don't do it, as her headspace. These are not women who are lazy or unmotivated. These are women who are defeated. They've really kind of been sold the lie that if they just had more discipline, if they had more motivation, if they had more willpower, they'd finally stick with it. But the truth is, willpower runs out and motivation fades, and discipline can't carry you when your system is broken. Among the other common answers were 1 week and 2 to 3 weeks, which means that some women are still trying. They're showing up on January 1 with hope, with intention, with a plan. And then life happens. The routine gets disrupted. The motivation dips. The plan falls apart. And then they blame themselves. But here's what you need to hear. The problem, it isn't you. The problem is that you're trying to force yourself into a system that doesn't fit your life. You're using someone else's blueprint, someone else's routines and rhythms, and someone else's energy capacity. And when it doesn't work, you think it's because you failed. But the truth is the system was never aligned for you in the first place. And so in reality, you don't need more discipline. You don't need to try harder. You need a reset, a fresh start that's built for your real life, not your ideal life and not someone else's life, yours. And that's where you need to start. So I also asked women, what keeps you from getting the help that you know you need? I asked them to choose up to 3 barriers that keep them from getting the support that they know would help them. And here's the most common answers: time, money, decision fatigue, embarrassment and shame, and not sure what would actually help. Time, of course, because who feels like they have any time when they feel like they're drowning? But here's the truth. You don't need more time. You need better systems, systems that give you your time back. To the women who said money, of course, this is also an expected answer. It's valid because investing in yourself feels impossible when you're already stretched financially. But here's what I want you to consider in both of these instances. What is staying stuck actually costing you? What is it costing you emotionally? What is it costing you mentally or emotionally or physically? Sometimes the most expensive choice is doing nothing, but we just don't think about that. What about the women who said decision fatigue? This one really makes me sad because it means that women are so maxed out on making everyday decisions that they can't even decide what help would actually help. They know they need something, they just can't figure out what it is, and that paralyzes them and it keeps them stuck. And then there's the women who said embarrassment and shame. That's why I don't reach out for help. Women are afraid of being seen. They're afraid of admitting that they're struggling. They're afraid of being judged for not having it all together. One woman chose embarrassment and shame and also said that she would talk about my debt situation first, if given a safe space. This is wearing on her. This is crippling her. This is suffocating her. But she doesn't have a safe place to talk about it. Another woman chose embarrassment and shame and said she'd talk about how overwhelming everything is. And these women, they're carrying these burdens in silence because they're ashamed, and the shame keeps them from getting help, which keeps them stuck, which deepens the shame. And it really is this vicious cycle. And then for the women who said that they weren't sure what would actually help, this is the woman who has tried things before and they didn't work. And so now she doesn't trust her own judgment of anything. She doesn't trust her own judgment of what she's thinking or feeling or what she thinks could actually help. And so she has no idea what she needs. She just knows something has to change. And here's what I want to say to every woman who chose any of these things. Your barriers, they are all real, and I'm not dismissing them, but they're not insurmountable. They're not impossible to overcome. You don't need more time. You just need a system that fits the time you have. You don't need unlimited money. You need an investment that actually delivers results. You don't need perfect clarity. You just need a good first step. And you don't need to carry shame anymore because struggling, it doesn't make you less than, it makes you human. So what do we do with all of this? Well, here's the truth that I want you to walk away with today. You're not failing. It's essentially that your operating system is outdated for the life that you have to live today. You're trying to run a 2026 life on 2015 bandwidth, and it's not working. The women who took this survey, the survey report is 43 pages long, the analysis. The women who took this survey aren't lazy. They're not broken and they're not weak. These are women who are capable, but they've been running on empty for so long that they've normalized the overwhelm. They've accepted it. They've convinced themselves that this is just how life is now, that everyone else is handling it, that something must be wrong with them, and I don't know what to do about it. But these are all lies. The truth is, you were never meant to carry what you're carrying largely on your own. The mental load, the emotional labor, the invisible work, the constant decision-making, the guilt, the shame, the pressure to keep it all together while quietly falling apart. All of these things together, heaped on your shoulders, they're not sustainable. And so the fact that you're struggling, it doesn't mean that you're failing. It just means that you're human. Well, hey, if you've been living in survival mode, running on empty, trying to hold everything together, wondering why nothing seems to stick, listen up. I created the Intentional Mom Planning System for women just like you. It's not just another planner that collects dust. It's a full support system that helps you carry your life differently. Inside it, you'll get my full Chart Your Course framework, survival mode essentials, and quick start tutorials that get you relief in under 30 minutes. You'll finally know what to do first and how to keep your life steady even when it's full. Head to theintentionalmomplanningsystem.com to grab yours. So what do we do with all of this? Well, I've got a few action steps for you here today. I've got 3 of them. So action step is number one is this. Track where your bandwidth disappears by 10 a.m. each day. For the next 3 days, just notice, what decisions are you making before you even sit down with your coffee? What's draining you before the day even starts? Write it down because you can't fix what you can't see. So it starts with seeing it. So action step number one is track where your bandwidth is going. What are you doing? Where are you draining yourself before 10 a.m.? That's action step number one. Action step number two, pick one reset loop you're stuck in and close it imperfectly. Imperfectly. So, what's the thing you keep starting over on? Is it the meal plan? Is it the morning routine? Is it the daily schedule? Is it the laundry system? Is it the budget? Pick just one of these things, just one. And this time, don't aim for perfect. Don't aim for anywhere close to that. Just aim for done. Aim for good enough. Aim for closed. What would that look like? Because progress that you can sustain, it beats the ideal perfection every single day. So, pick one loop, one thing that is draining you that you can close imperfectly. What would that look like? Action step number 3, start telling the truth about your limits. Being honest about the fact that you have limits at all, it's not giving up. It's actually a very wise strategy. You need to stop pretending that you have infinite capacity. Stop saying yes when you mean no. Stop pretending that you're competent when you're barely hanging on. Honesty, it doesn't signal weakness. It's the starting point for real change. And here's the thing, you're not doing this alone. The women who completed this survey, they are all craving community. They are all craving connection. They are all craving feeling seen and understood. They are all craving a safe space where they can live without being judged. The women in this survey have proven that if any of this resonated with you, that you are not alone and that you are fully capable of choosing a different path. You are fully capable of looking at life differently. If you've felt like you are spinning or snapping or stuck, it's not because you're weak. It's because your bandwidth has been hijacked by a whole bunch of things. Other people's needs, by the mental load, by the invisible labor, by the pressure to keep it all together while you're quietly falling apart inside. You don't need to try harder. You need to think differently. And you don't need to do this alone. I've compiled this survey analysis. It's 43 pages long. We've got a link down in the notes here. Grab that survey, read through it. Where do you see yourself? See that you are not alone and know that the help is there. These things that you need, they are there for you. And it's where I plan on taking women in 2026. I want to help women with all of these things. And so that is exactly what I'm going to be doing. So grab the survey down below, see where you fit, see that you are not alone. And that's where we start. We start by having the conversations. We start by finding ourselves and understanding ourselves. And when we do that, then we're able to begin moving forward. And I look so forward to helping you do that in the coming days. Until we talk again, make it a great day.